Hello, welcome to University of Pattern Drafting. My name is Umo. So if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. This is Module 5, Part 3 of our Evening Dress and Draping Masterclass. So in Part 3, I'm going to be showing you how to sew this skirt part of this dress. You can see that it's actually a straight dress with a train, and then it has drapes. So I'm going to be showing you how to sew this. I'm also going to be showing you how to use slash and spread method to get very well defined drapes. So this is what the final product looks like. You can see how well defined my drapes are. Can you see that? Very well defined. So that's what I'm going to be teaching you in this class. I'm also going to be showing you how to actually sew the full thing. So first off, let's start by drafting out our basic straight skirt pattern. Notice that I said basic straight skirts. The pattern that we're going to be using for this is a straight skirt, not a penciled skirt. So the difference between a straight skirt and a pencil skirt is that a pencil skirt hugs your body around the hip and around the knee. You know, in fact, the full silhouette of a pencil skirt is just figure hugging, whereas a straight skirt just hugs around the waist and around the hip. So that's my waistline that you saw me labeling. This is my hip line that I've drawn out, and notice that the exact same measurement, second arc measurements that I used on my hip line is what I used on my hemline. And then notice that because of that train, I extended it by, you can use between 10 and 14 inches depending on how long you want that train or tail to be. So remember what I said, the same measurements that I used. So for example, if your hip arc is 9 inches, my total hip is 36, so hip arc is 36 divided by 4, that's 9 inches. Measure that same 9 inches on your hemline. So I've gone ahead to transcribe this pattern to my pattern paper, and notice that my pattern paper was folded into two. So that was my front pattern you saw me drafting. It's the exact same thing we're going to be using for both front and back, seeing as is a straight skirt. So this is my hip line that I'm marking. Remember that this is the skirt part of the dress, meaning that this skirt part is starting at the half length. So my hip line should sit around, let's say 9.5 inches. So from that 9.5 inches, you can see me just arcing it. Do you understand? I had first gone ahead to press the center front of that paper, so it's very well defined. You know how you use your nail to tape that area, so you can see how defined it is. Can you see that? You can go ahead and rule a line anyways at that center front. So from that around 9.5 inches, you just saw me angling it down to the hemline, and then notice that it's sort of like 1 inch away from the center front. So if you don't want your own so wide, you can make it even before that center front, maybe 2 inches before the center front. Do you understand? And then this is 4 inches that you can see me marking here. So that's 4 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and connect that to around the center front at the waistline area. So the essence of putting it at that center front is so that when I'm placing them together, you know, I'll not be confused. I'll try to know where that panel is going to start from. Can you see that? So that's my center front. You can do maybe 1.5 inches away from your center front. So you can see what the full pattern actually looks like. Can you see what it actually looks like? Like, just really easy to do. So those are my two panels. So now this smaller panel, I'm going to go ahead and trace that out. Do you understand? So I can cut it out. So I'm just placing my pattern paper on it. I can actually see through. Do you understand? Because I used marker. So I'm just tracing exactly what I have on that side for that panel. So I'm going to go ahead and trace that out, and then I'll now cut out my full pattern. So this is me just going ahead to cut out that panel alone. Do you understand? Because if I just cut it from the main pattern paper that I drafted, it will be confusing for you. So this is what it looks like. Can you see that it's the exact same shape of that panel that we drew? Can you see that? And then this is the second panel. I'm going ahead to draw out the lines for my drapes. Remember that we're using slash and spread method to achieve these drapes. So the distance on this other side is about 1 inch in between, and then on that side, you know, you can use maybe 1.5 inches. So I'm going ahead to cut out, and see, I'm cutting to the edge, but I'm not cutting through. So you must cut to the edge. Before slashing your paper, it's actually better to cut out the lining part. So this is the lining part that you can see me cutting out, the lining part of this panel. Do you understand? It's better to cut it out so that you use it as a guide. Do you understand? So this is my back. I remember I said that I'm going to be using the exact same pattern for the back and the front, seeing as it's a straight skirt. So this is my allowance. I'm adding 2 inches zipper allowance at the back. So that's what you can see me. You saw me marking, and then I'm going ahead to cut this out. Remember that the length of this skirt is actually 12 inches longer than the normal length for my straight dresses. Do you understand that? So if your straight dress is, let's say, 60 inches, you should be cutting, let's say, 72 inches. Do you understand that? So this is my back. This is the fashion fabric actually, and then I'm going ahead to notch that zip area so that I don't confuse the bottom with the top. So this is what it actually looks like. I'm just pinning it together, and then I'm going to go ahead and now work on my front pattern. So this is my front pattern. Remember that I had slashed it, so I'm going ahead to spread it. So after slashing, you should go ahead and spread it. So to spread it, I put newspaper underneath so that I can, you know, when I spread it, the space in between, the newspaper would sort of like take care of that. So this is me trying to slash it. I'm going to adjust the camera so that you can see what I'm doing more clearly. So remember that I said slash to the edge. If you don't slash to the edge, spreading it will be it will almost be impossible because it won't lay flat. And you need that other edge to actually lay flat. So I'm just going ahead to spread it. So now I'm using about 3.5 inches in between. Do you understand? For my spreading, for the width of what I'm spreading is 3.5 inches. Now, if you don't want your drapes to be so full, you can use maybe, I don't know, you can use less than that. But I wanted, you know, really full and very defined drapes. So I used 3.5 inches, as you can see. So I've marked that 3.5 inches from the first one, and you can see that I'm shifting the second one to start at that point, and I'm taping it down. So that's what I'm going to do for every single thing. And then also remember to also tape it down at the other end so that, you know, everything is just, and that place has to be flat. Do you understand that? That portion has to be somewhat flat. So you can see I'm using my hand to adjust it until it is really, really flat. And then I'm marking the same 3.5 inches, and then I'm going ahead to also tape this down. So now if you don't want your drapes to be, you know, the same width or the same size, you know, if you want maybe like it to sort of like gradually thin out, you know, and all of that, you can use 3.5 inches, you know, reduce it to, let's say, 3.25, 3, you know, just keep reducing it like that. Do you understand? Depending on what size you want. So I'll go ahead and do this for everything. Remember that this is one side of our front pattern. We had gone ahead to cut out the other side. That second side is not going to have any drapes, so that one will just be the way it will cut out that one the way it is. And then if you notice that you're trying to spread it, it's not balanced at the other edge. Cut to the edge, but don't cut through. Do you understand? Then after cutting it, you can tape it back together just as you saw me doing. So I'll go ahead and do this for every single one of those drapes, and I will show you what the final result actually looks like. So this is me having done everything. So I'm going ahead to now divide the space. You know that 3.5 inches now. You can see me, I'm marking the middle of that 3.5 inches. That's what I'm going to do for every single thing. And then from that middle, I'll draw a straight, it's a straight line actually, even though it's somewhat diagonal. So I'll draw, it's almost like dividing that triangle into two. Do you understand? So I'll do that for every single thing, and I'll now go ahead and create triangles outside. Now the essence of this triangle that you're creating is so that you can actually see the actual drapes that you're going to be cutting. Do you understand? Like this triangle is going to serve as a guide. You're going to actually see what I'm going to do at the end of the day. Like this triangle is so important. I don't know how people do slash and spread without this, because you'll never really know where you marked out for, you know, your drapes to be. This one just gives you a lot more guidance, you know, and all of that. That's how you get much more defined drapes. So this is me taping it down together, and I've gone ahead to do that for every single one of those things that I spread out. So now you can see me, you can decide to make it either make the direction of your drapes go up or down, but it's always better to make it go up so it gives that real illusion of drapes. So you can see what it actually looks like. Like it gives you more more direction. Do you understand? I can actually see where my drape should actually sit. Do you understand? It's not like I just cut fabric and then I'm just, you know, offhandedly doing it. So you can see what it actually looks like. Can you see that it's a lot more defined? So this triangular excess is still leave it there because it's going to guide us as we're cutting on fabric. So this is my fabric. You can see I cut it out of fabric and I cut the exact same thing. Like my fabric too has the triangular edges. Can you see that? Very, very, very important. And then remember to notch the other side. So that you can see me, I notched it. I marked it with chalk and I also notched it because you have to have guidance. Like you can't just be draping offhandedly like that. So you can see my drapes. I can actually see the direction. Can you see the width of my drape is the width of that triangle? And as I said, you can make it go up, or the direction of your drape can actually be up or down depending on what you want, but I'd rather make it up so that it really gives the illusion that I actually draped this. So can you see, mark them like hold them together. So I'll hold this point. Can you see that? Fold it up and I know where it should actually sit on the other side. Can you see that? So get your pins and then pin this. So that first layer now, you might not necessarily pin it down because you know you're going to have to still hem the top, or at least join the the top part of your dress to this. So you can see me pinning too. Can you see? It gives me a lot more direction. Like my drapes are more defined. So I'll go ahead and do this for every single thing. Remember that this is a snippet from our evening dress and draping masterclass. So to join the full class, please send a WhatsApp message to this number that you can actually see on the screen, or you can go ahead and send me a DM on Instagram using this Instagram handle that you can see on the screen at University of Pattern Drafting. So I'm going ahead to do the same for the second one. Can you already see how nice the drapes are looking? And you can see how lush and full the drapes are, like just really nice and smooth. So this is what everything is going to look like, and this is how to achieve very, very well defined drapes. Do you understand? So when you're done with this, make sure you don't iron this because you need it to look really draped. If you iron it, everything will just flatten out. So when you're done, just, you know, ensure that before you start draping, actually you ironed your fabric so that you don't need to iron after you are done. So you can see how defined my drapes are. Notice that the drapes doesn't get to the other edge. Can you see that? It doesn't actually get to the other edge. Remember when we're slashing, we did not slash through. Do you understand? So we didn't add anything. So in pinning, ensure that the drapes doesn't enter that other side. You're just using those notched points as sort of like a guide. Do you understand? So now go ahead and do this for the other one. You can see me matching. So it must match. Do you understand? One triangle with one notch. Do you understand? One triangle on one side matches with the notch on the other side, so that everything is just well defined. It's not just that you just start just picking the fabric, you know, anyhow and everything. You will not really know what you did. I think it will make it more difficult for you, but this is a lot more much easier. So remember that module 5 is all about the skirt part of evening dresses. We had gone ahead to deal with all sorts of train and put up tutorials on how to draft the pattern for different types of evening dresses with tails and trains. And I hope that you've actually gone through those videos and actually practice. Ensure that once you're done practicing, drop your pictures on the Telegram lecture group. Okay, so this is the lining fabric that I had cut for it. Remember that I said that I cut the lining to be exact. So you can see that I'm using it to sort of like know whether I draped properly, whether I over draped or under draped. Do you understand? So you can see that it's exact. So I'm fine with what I have. Now you can go ahead and turn this with your lining. Do you understand? Because that's if you are going to be lining, but it's always better to line because lining sort of like gives your drapes stability. So you can go ahead and turn that inside out. Mine is practical, so I wouldn't really bother with all those things. So you can see how defined the drapes, and you can see that at this edge I've joined it to the back. So you can see that at that edge there's no drape at that back, there's no fold. You can see that I just joined it straight. So this is the other panel for the front, and I've placed it right side up. Can you see that? And I'm placing this is the back that I'm placing over it. So the draped portion now is going to be in between the front and the back at that side. Can you see? So that's the way we're going to be joining this. So I'll go ahead and stitch this together, and can you see how nice and clean my drapes are? Look at what it looks like. I'm also going ahead to turn the top of mine. If you're adding, if this is a dress, if you're making a dress, instead of turning the top, just attach the upper part of the dress, and this is what the inside looks like. Can you see what I'm saying? So you should have turned that point, you know, turned everything, and this is the final result of our drapes. I hadn't fixed the zip at this point, and I hadn't sewn up the back. However, look at what it looks like. And then if you don't want yours to be this open, I mean the slit area, you can go ahead and make your opening much smaller than I did. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you found this helpful, ensure that you give this video a like, and if you're not subscribed at this point, ensure that you subscribe for more useful videos. And if you want to join any of our classes, please send a WhatsApp message to this number that you can see on the screen, or send a DM to the Instagram handle at University of Patterson Drafting that you can actually see on the screen. So thanks for watching. Ciao.